Bitcoin has just had an exceptionally bullish weekly candle close and is well placed for a huge breakout very soon. Let's dive into today's video to talk about both the macro and the short time frame charts and what we need to see for both an immediate bullish continuation or for the bears to take back control of the market. Before we do though, make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel to get regular Bitcoin analysis every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and ring that notification button so you never miss an episode. If you're after even more content, be sure to check out my free Telegram channel for daily updates as well as crypto and economic news. And if you're interested in my VIP channel, you can get more details over here. VIP gives you exclusive access to my personal trades with exact entry points, targets, and stop losses. Alrighty guys, so diving right into the charts here, we're on a 1 hour time frame for Bitcoin. Just really quickly, let's go ahead and talk about what on earth has happened in the last couple of days in the market and for Bitcoin. So it's been a pretty busy week. It has been pretty volatile, especially over the last couple of days. We can see this chop over here, but specifically over that last couple of days, we did actually manage to establish our most recent level of resistance at $67,000 as a base of support. We can see there moving up into the weekend. There was a pretty important event. So Donald Trump attended the Bitcoin conference over in Nashville, and leading up to the event, we saw a little bit of accumulation here, pushing the price up past that level of resistance at $67,000 and above our bullish trigger here at 68.4. So we had closed above that momentarily on the hourly chart, but upon the news event, of course, we see a bit of a dip. We accumulate before the news event and we see de-accumulation or sell-off after the event. So that's exactly what we saw. But what's good about this price action is despite the retest downwards, we still managed to hold this level on the hourly chart as a base of support. And if we move over onto the daily chart as well, we can see that retest there of that key level of resistance, which has now been flipped to a base of support. So that is really, really good, guys. If we take a look at market data, we can see that, not too much interesting happening today. 24-hour liquidations is down 67%, volumes down 50%, and longs and shorts liquidations are both skewed pretty equally right now. Coming up this week, though, we do have some more economic news coming out. So on Wednesday at 4 a.m. here in Australia, we have the federal interest rate decision, which is extremely important for this particular area for what Bitcoin is. We're right between a really large breakout and a very critical of support, which I'll go ahead and talk about in just a moment. So that's everything you really need to know about the current context of the price action. Let's go ahead and dive into our macro analysis. Before we go ahead and dive into our analysis, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor, Bitunix. Bitunix is an emerging cryptocurrency exchange committed to providing you with a secure, convenient, and highly functional trading and investment platform. Available across all countries as a non-KYC exchange, get global access to over 150 trading pairs with minimal fees on both spot and futures contracts. Join today to get $5,500 in sign-up rewards and get 15% off all of your trading fees by signing up using the link in my bio or by using the code 1GG3 when you create your account. Alrighty guys, so diving right into the macro analysis, we're starting off with the weekly candle close. And so for those of you guys in Australia, every single Monday we get that weekly candle close at 10 a.m. And so it's just happened about 2 hours ago. But this specific weekly candle close was extremely important because of what we can see here on the RSI. So for those of you who don't know, RSI is a momentum indicator. It tells us essentially whether or not we're seeing shifts in buying pressure or selling pressure. And in conjunction with the price action, it can tell us a lot about what the future price action for Bitcoin should look like. So what we're seeing here on the RSI is a breakout of a 4-month-long downtrend in momentum, right? So that tells us that this recent price action has been strong enough to signal a very positive and very bullish shift in buying pressure over here, right? Last time we saw a massive shift in bullish momentum was when we, of a similar kind of, time frame downtrend in bullish momentum. Last time we saw that break after horizontal confirmation, which I'll go over in a second, we ended up getting that massive rally all the way up to $60,000. Not saying the rally this time is going to be as large, but what it does tell us this time around is that as we approach the upper downtrend that we have here on our high time frame structure, right, this massive downtrend that we've had for the last 4 or 5 months with reoccurring lower highs on the price action has a much higher likelihood of being broken out of. So upon retesting at that $72,000 level, this prior high over here, we have a much higher likelihood of breaking out because of this massive positive shift that we've seen here in the momentum. So we've confirmed that shift. We've gotten that weekly candle close, which is exactly what we were looking for in that prior video. And that is very, very bullish, guys. Before we get carried away though, guys, I did mention the need for horizontal validation. So if we go ahead and take a look, for example, at our 2019 sort of similar situation, not exactly the same, obviously, but very similar, right? We have two downtrends over here, one in the price action, we have one in the RSI, and upon that breakout on the RSI, we bottomed out over here and moved upwards to then later break out of the downtrend in the price action. But what we can see here is a failed breakout. So despite the fact that momentum shifted upwards, we failed to sustain a move above the prior high in that downtrend. And upon failing to break above that, we ended up having a failed breakout, right? So it wasn't until later on over here in, August 2020 that we were able to break above that horizontal trigger point, close above it as a base of support or use it as a base of support in that directional continuation, and then get that massive rally all the way up to $60,000. So horizontal confirmation is very, very important, guys. So like I said at the start of the video, RSI is used in conjunction with the price action. It alone will not tell us where exactly the price is going to go. We need that horizontal validation. So if we go back into our current segment of price action, that horizontal level that we're looking at is $72,000, right? That is that prior high that we have here in the downtrend. And once we break out of this downtrend over here, the first thing that we need to do for a macro bullish directional continuation is a close above that prior high at $72,000. It includes the wick, guys. It's not just the candle close. And that will tell us, in conjunction with the positive shift in momentum, that we are very, very likely to be getting that full measured move and continuing up to $85,000. That is the depth of our flag pattern here, or our descending channel. If we move that over here, apply that to the breakout point. Let's just say it's the end. Oopsies. Let's say it's the end of the month. That takes us to about $84,000, $85,000. Now, what would it mean if we reject from that $72,000? Because while I have been saying, yes, when we're above $72,000, we get that weekly candle close above this high time frame trigger point, we should see a high time frame directional continuation to $85,000. That's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a good couple of weeks, right? At least 2 to 3 weeks before we see that full measured move, right? It's at least 20%. But that does not mean that below $72,000 we are necessarily bearish in any way. That key level that we're looking for to define the macro bullish versus macro bearish perspective is this level over here at $63,000, right? And that is because, first of all, it is the midline of our channel, right, of our descending channel over here. And so naturally above the midline, we have a much higher probability of a range high retest in comparison to a range low. We're above halfway, so of course it's going to be easier to get through those levels of resistance above compared to the more, like the higher amount of volume that we have below. Okay, and moving into our daily chart, we can see that that $63,000 level is also the 50-day moving average, which has traditionally been a very, very strong indicator of whether or not we're going to get that range high retest. Above 50,000, the 50-day SMA, we generally see those range highs. Below, we see the range low retests, right? So we're above the 50-day moving average right now, which sits right at $64,000. We're above that midline. And if we take a look as well at BLX, we can see a little bit more confirmation as to why this 64K level of support is so important for marking the macro bearish scenario. So over here on that 3-day chart, we can see that recent bounce here from the lagging span B, or the base of our Ichimoku cloud, this red line over here. And upon doing that, we've essentially established our cloud as a base of support now. And where that cloud sits right now is just at 63,700. So that 64K level of support. We can also see a similar bounce here from our baseline, right, which again is sitting right at that $63,000 level, or just slightly below it. Again, two really key levels of support there. And falling below that, we tend to see a larger correction. We would go down to retrace that $56,000 level, right, all the way back down at the base of our high time frame structure, and we would be very likely to again see that range low retest. Essentially what I'm saying, guys, is the $63,000 level has horizontal validation, structural confirmation, as well as technical validation that it is a very important level in terms of that macro bullish scenario. So while we're above 63K, we are still technically bullish despite potential rejections from this next large high time frame trigger point at $72,000. It's going to be a strong level of resistance, guys. Above that, we have that 73K level as well, the all-time high. Think about the psychological resistance at that level. We're going to be slowing down as we approach those levels of resistance potentially. But while we hold 63, we should continue to see, an eventual buildup of strength and a breakthrough of those levels at some point in time. Now, if we go ahead and talk about the macro bearish case scenario, so we know, okay, below $63,000, we should get a range low retest, but we also know that structurally, below this, range low, below $55,000, the bottom of that trend line over here, or the horizontal price value for that point in the trend line, we have our range low, and below that we have our macro horizontal bearish trigger at $53,000. Now that is our bearish trigger because the same way that this range high or this prior high in the downtrend is our bullish trigger, is the same way this range low or the sell side liquidity for that low becomes our bearish trigger to the downside, right? We also have technical validation for that level. If we go ahead and take a look at BLX on the weekly time frame, we can see again that baseline over here, right? That coincides perfectly with the base of our structural pattern right here at $55,000. We have that exact same level right here. Retest of the lower trend line here is anywhere between $55,000 to $56,000, right? And then falling below our baseline on the Ichimoku, generally what we see is a retest of the cloud as a base of support. We have an example right over here in September 2021. We had a fall below the baseline over here. What the price did was go right down to retest the Ichimoku cloud. Upon bouncing, we had another fall below baseline, another retest of the Ichimoku cloud, and so on and so forth. So if we go ahead and apply that to this current context of price action, what that means is, if we fall below our baseline here, $55,000, or aka below our structural pattern on that, that prior chart that we have here, what that means is, assuming, we take some time to get there, we go on to test our Ichimoku cloud, and that is at $53,000, right? That exact same trigger point that we have here, this horizontal trigger point that we have here on our structural chart. So we have, again, technical validation of what that bearish case scenario is going to look like and what we need to see for full confirmation that the bears are taking control of the market. So if we do not bounce there on that $53,000 trigger point and on that Ichimoku cloud, we are very likely to then see a much larger correction, a move down to the leading span A, $49,000, $48,000, and so on and so forth. So again, we're obviously not seeing that, so we are looking very, very bullish, guys. Now let's go ahead and dive into our short time frame analysis and talk about this approach here of that upper trend line at $70,000. Alrighty guys, so moving on to the 1 hour time frame, let's quickly go ahead and talk about our short time frame bullish and bearish validations. So right now, as you guys can see, Bitcoin is traveling in a short time frame uptrend. It is holding up pretty well, and as you guys know, the trend is your friend until it ends. So while we're within that uptrend, the natural assumption is that we should be going upwards, right? We've seen a pretty volatile last couple of hours while I was talking about the macro charts, and the price is currently sitting very close to that range high retest here at $70,000. Where's my pen? Over here, $70,000. But essentially, even if we do see a small little correction, the first level that we look to retrace would be this one over here. We have a small little level of support over at $68,000, guys. We can see that gap in the volume profile. So if we do lose the uptrend, that first thing that the price will look to do is move into that gap in the volume there, and should find support upon that $68,000 level. Just as a short time frame base of support, we can see it was previously a little range of short time frame resistance. We can see 2 rejections there, and it was the fall below that led to a move down to test sell side liquidity or create sell side liquidity level for that 67K support. So in terms of short time frame bullish case scenario, while we're above the uptrend and while we're above this level here at $68,000, we should be getting, that bullish directional continuation and see that eventual retest of $70,000. Now, in terms of short time frame bearish, the only thing that we need to know is these 2 key levels. So let me just zoom out so you guys can see it a little bit better on the 4 hour time frame. All you really need to know is these two key levels. We have that 67K recent support resistance flip. Let me get rid of the VIPV for a second. And we have our key support at $60,000 to $64,000. So in our short time frame bearish case scenario, the first thing that we need to see to confirm a larger move, so is a fall below our trend line, but an inability to establish support on that 68K level, fall below our trend line, so we should go then to test 67 as a base of support. Falling below 67, the first level we should then look to is that sell side liquidity for that level of support. If you go on the 1 hour time frame, you can see it on the liquidity swings indicator as well. Falling below that level at 66.5 is then when we fall into this range here between 63 and 67. So that's when we can pull up the VRPV and we can take a look at the relevant gaps within that, because that is where the price should move, right, to, fulfill those gaps and distribute. So obviously that first gap coincides with that liquidity level, so falling right below that, we should see a move down to 65,900, right at the bottom of that gap. Falling below that as well, that key level support we can see over here, we can see a little bit of support there. Coincides with this little level over here on the liquidity swings indicator on the 4 hour time frame. Moving below there, we then move to fill this next gap over here, which ends at $64.8 thousand. Falling below that, that is when we go on to retest this next key level of support, that high time frame level of support at 63 to 64,000. Alrighty guys, that is all the analysis that I have for you today. If you enjoyed the video, you learned something, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel down below. And if you're after even more content, be sure to check out my free Telegram channel for daily updates as well as crypto and economic news. If you're interested in my VIP channel, you can get more details over here. VIP gives you exclusive access to my personal trade setups with exact entry points, targets, and stop losses. And if you are a trader, don't forget to sign up down below to Bitunix to get 15% off all of your trading fees and $5,500 US in sign-up rewards. Hope you guys have a really great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye!